Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery starring Jerry Springer, along with Gene Galvin and me. I'm Megan Hills. We're recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky.
My daddy
And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Springer.
Thank you. Oh, shucks.
We're here again. So I have a question.
Yes.
I listen to our podcast when I'm not here.
You're the one.
I am the one, yes. So, and I think, I was kind of listening to everybody's input, everything like that. And I have to tell you, Mr. Galvin, you have an inordinate amount of airtime on this podcast.
Excuse me?
It is ridiculous.
In other words, he talks a lot on it,
So much
Yeah.
talking from Gene.
No, because I'll tell you, I have a brother, Jerry.
You do.
And Jerry has been to this podcast.
And he is a delightful Galvin.
He is a delightful.
He's the good guy.
He has been to this podcast numerous times, including last week. And he calls me every time he comes to a podcast the next day, Megan, and says, I was not going to bring this up. They never let you talk. That's what my brother Jerry says.
And he was physically
Who doesn't
here.
get to talk?
I don't get any talk time.
What?
I think that's just your brother being nice. I gotta tell you.
I have people literally asking me, "Are you on your? If I'm on my podcast,
You're on your own podcast.
Jerry, when did you talk
because
on your podcast?
you introduce it. Here's Jerry Springer, hey, and that's the last you hear.
And then generally you hear Gene
the
say something like, "Hey, I got a question for you."
Yeah, let me tell you. I talked to my mom the other day, and my
Wow.
mom
This is so bleak.
said
This is really
that I'm not getting enough talk time.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't. Even,
This is going to be the
that's a
last thing
horrible
I'm going to
story.
say.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that is why.
That's a
Because my mom died
I was going to say, I didn't want to be
21
rude.
years ago.
Yeah.
No.
How old is your mother?
I need...
I gotta send flowers.
This is a true story. When my father died,
Oh, I remember.
God bless you for coming to my father's funeral.
Yes.
Guardian Angel Church, Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Megan, let's bless ourselves.
Amen.
Yeah.
And he had at the time...
Hey, wasn't Spotlight a great movie? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well played.
It won. Go ahead. No, you guys talk.
You had this brilliant idea, you and Mike Ford cooked it up when you were a city council member, that you had the Jerry Springer Service Directory.
Yes.
And it was sort of a scam thing to help you get elected.
Scam?
Well, no, it was a good service directory. You know,
wonderful
how you
service.
get a dead rat in the middle of the street removed, or how you get the meter readers to come.
Yeah.
You pass those out in the church to the people at my dad's funeral.
The election was 3 weeks away.
Jerry Springer, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Most of the people there were still alive. You've got to get votes. You get votes where you can.
I mean,
Oh my God! You don't think Trump would do that?
You want to be on that same level?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, there's an aspiration.
Well, it's a step up for me.
Touche.
Here's
Go
what
ahead.
I'm going
I'm
to
sorry.
do.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I'm going to do.
poor
By
Gene
the way,
Campbell.
my
I am-
condolences.
Thank you, 21 years
Sorry.
late. Hey, I've been admonished. I'm going to talk very little tonight. I would like to just tell one thing, and then I'm going to zip
Lord.
it.
Can we get an over-under on word count tonight?
Because you make me think of my cousin Mike,
Okay.
who for 21 years was at Gethsemane Monastery. Megan, you probably have been there. They sell bread. The monks, Jerry, we're talking Catholicism now, the monks make bread, meditate, pray, work in the fields. And when they go in the door, they pledge an oath, a vow of silence. And they do not talk.
Chance of you becoming a monk?
This is
I
my
would
point.
support this. I would
This is my
sponsor him.
Can
I
we
could be
send
your
him to
Catholic
monk
sponsor.
school?
Monk school.
I am thinking of doing that. But I got to
You
tell
would
you
last
something.
23 seconds together. Maybe.
My cousin, and this is the only thing where I hesitate to join Gethsemane, is my cousin lasted for 21 years. Wow. My cousin, the way the deal works is every 7 years you're permitted, each monk who has vowed silence, to come before the elders and say something. It's just sort of an escape valve. Every 7 years, you say a couple words. My cousin went in after the first 7 years and he looked at the elders. They nodded to him like, you may speak. And he said, cold floors. And they,
That's it. That's all.
okay, and he went back out. And he made bread and toiled in the fields and meditated and prayed for another 7 years.
It's horrible.
He went back and they nodded to him and he said, food, bad. And he left.
Oh my
And he came back in after 7 more years, and they went, and he said, I quit. Oh. And when he walked out the door, one elder looked to another and said, you know, I'm not surprised. He's been complaining since the day he got here. So I don't know if Gethsemane would work for me.
I don't think that's
He
your
looked
calling,
that up.
sir.
That was good. Okay, let's make it 7 years till you tell another joke. No, that was very good.
Megan, can I get a hell yeah for
Yeah.
bringing some new material?
Hell
was new.
yeah.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure where that was going. I got to be honest.
No, it's going basically nowhere.
Bad.
I lost my Milton Berle book.
Man.
Dear God, you made. Never mind. I mean, I know who Milton
I-
Berle is, but
you know who
that's a dated reference.
You think? I actually met Milton Berle.
Really?
And Sid Caesar, all those old time. When I was a kid, they were
Yeah.
the big.
Oh, yeah.
There was a Friars roast in L.A. or whatever, and Milton Berle was already 92. Sid Caesar was there. All these old time guys. That was great. One of them had a hearing aid.
Oh my God, was it a good
Really?
one? Don't do it. I swear to God.
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
Swear
I got
to
guts.
God.
Yeah, you got guys. Go ahead and do
So
it.
Milton says,
I'm a
this is-
puncher.
He said, first he says, I'm going to punch you. And then he said, finest hearing aid money can buy. Oh my gosh, what kind is it? 4 o'clock.
Oh my God, it's still here. Yeah.
Timing's getting worse.
Chirp, 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 chirp.
It relies on
He
the
didn't even
timing,
tell the
too.
whole joke that time.
Megan, I'm not going to talk, but can I ask you a question?
Of course, Gene, you can ask me a question.
When Jerry and I were college, coming out of college after that period back in the day, we probably, no, we did. We hung out in bars and you would meet girls in bars. And that was probably the primary way, not the only way, but a primary way to make contacts. And I'm sure you'd have done that in your life. And you're a young woman you're not married, correct? I mean,
Correct.
last week you weren't married. I don't think you're married.
No, I did not get married this week.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Still not married.
You're not engaged.
What about in the biblical sense?
Not
Well, you could be married
I am
to
an
the
HR
Lord.
manager. Please keep that in
Yeah.
mind.
You're not a nun. You didn't go
not a
into the
nun.
convent
Correct.
since then.
Correct.
Certainly haven't been silent for 7 years.
Whatever.
Hey,
Stuff just comes out.
I can't help it. I can't help it.
When we finish podcasts, we go out to dinner. We go to a very nice restaurant, Skyline Chili, and have a meal.
Yep.
And sometimes some of the best material and newer jokes happens there, but we don't have a recorder. But you've talked about, and now kidding aside, of using modern technology to date.
Yep.
To find guys.
Dating apps and yep.
So, and you did tell a story about one guy. We're not going to name a guy. Let's don't even give a city so it doesn't track
Correct.
back. He could be a listener, but I'm pretty sure before the motor of his car cooled from driving in from another city, you were sending him back on his way to that city.
Yeah.
You did? I mean, someone came to meet you.
3-hour drive.
A long way, yeah.
And you
See her
sent
for,
him
like-
home?
I sure did.
Pretty quickly. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was my Valentine's Day weekend.
Yeah. So it doesn't always work.
No.
Is it fun? Is it effective?
Yeah.
And
You
No, it
looked
is-
something up on a...
Oh, for the love of God. So it's just like, are you familiar at all with like Match.com or any of those?
Yeah.
Okay. So now they've made them all into like phone apps so that you don't have to get online and go through, fill out all the, it used to be you'd fill out a personality type thing. Well, we've done away with most of that for most of these apps. Now it's just 5 or 6 pictures. You get like maybe 400 characters to talk about yourself, and that's about it. And then you swipe right, swipe left, and there's Bumble, there's Tinder, there's all these different things out there now. But they all have the basic same setup.
Could you show me how
I
this works?
cannot show you. So yes,
Testing 1, 2.
It's super superficial.
and
but
it is that. It's very superficial, very
Absolutely.
much based
And that's
just on...
that's a bad thing?
didn't say it was a bad thing. I'm using them, but
It's super. It must be good.
well, it's convenient, is what it is.
Who wants to do something that's just official?
Right.
You want superficial.
No, but it's a numbers game. It's like you just sometimes you talk to somebody, talk to them for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of days, and just see where it goes. Sometimes you meet, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you drive 3 hours to another city and get told to go right
So
back
you
home.
actually met someone on that, like on your phone, and you swipe whichever way you go, and so the guy drives 3 hours.
Well, we had been talking for quite some time.
Oh, so you actually talked to the person?
Yeah, we had been talking
Yeah.
for a couple of months actually, and he came
Oh,
in town.
well,
And so
that's-
that was what. See, this is the thing because
Yeah.
you can be. He was a charming guy. Like there was really nothing wrong with him. Like we
course not.
texted. He was nice. We had a lot of conversation. Well, he shows up and he is one of the most painfully shy individuals I've ever met in my life.
And that's not going to work with you.
Not with me. No, it's not. And he was a doll, but there was just no.
Tell me, does begging work?
No.
Yeah.
But that is the one thing,
I
like with
found
the online
begging work
stuff,
when
you
I
have
was
to be
younger.
careful because people, one, will catfish you. Two,
What's
wait,
that?
what?
What's
that is
catfish?
catfishing. Sorry, it's not the same guy that owns the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a guy out here that owns this first school coffee parlor
Yeah.
whose
No,
name is
catfishing-
Catfish.
Yeah.
So he was
He was
catfished
cat-
before
yeah.
before the
So
internet.
what does catfishing mean?
Catfishing is you put pictures up there that maybe aren't you or are very extremely like so women will do like the high photos like looking down
Yeah.
maybe just most I would say the best looking angles they can get
Yeah.
and oftentimes people will not put pictures of themselves, they'll use other people, so then the
Well, I
person will
just did
show
that
up on the
'cause
date.
Tom Cruise looks a lot
So
like
much
me,
like
so that's the only reason I put
People
his
say I
picture
look
up.
like him all the time, but but it's true. So you
then
show
they-
up, and so that's a big fear
And
that
then
you
they
show up
say,
and
you're
the
not
person is
Tom
not.
Cruise.
No.
Not at all. But no, it's interesting. It's all about the convenience, and then it's all about like I said, the numbers game. But you meet some nice people. I mean,
Do you remember there was a woman that was here for a podcast?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't want to identify her, but she's involved in politics at a pretty
that's
high
right.
level.
That's right. Yeah.
And as a staff member. And she told us, she
her?
told you and
Yeah,
me when we
yeah.
were out doing some political stuff with this person, again, I don't want to identify her,
Yeah.
that the guy that she is likely to marry, she's living with him, they have a real serious relationship, great relationship by all accounts, and they met on Tinder.
They met on Tinder.
specifically
And they all
on
kinda have
Tinder,
they-
which is the ultimate superficial
Right,
one.
and that's what I was going to say. They each kind of have their different levels of superficiality. Tinder is generally the one that you think of that's real superficial. It is 100% just, and it's known as a hookup site. Like it's not known for finding lasting relationships or anything like that. That's what it's billed as. It's just kind of a hookup site. So that's not the one that I do. But
Yeah.
the rest of them, there is still like that Match.com type thing.
And
It's different
isn't it true, Jerry and Megan, that the main
because he's really well tapped into this topic.
deal is a quick attraction? If you don't
Correct.
have that, who's going to marry somebody if both sides don't have that? So what,
Ultimately, it's the same thing as you're doing at a bar. You're looking across the room, seeing if you find somebody that you find attractive, trying to strike up a conversation with them. It's the same thing as just digital. And then you have to, the thing that's nerve-wracking about it is that you have to take the next step if you really want to date somebody and meet them. And after you've gone on a few not so successful dates, it gets a little dark.
My marriage had to be arranged.
I believe that.
Yeah. By a number of lawyers, as I remember. No,
For her.
I'm kidding, Mickey. I'm kidding. So I got in trouble. I told her, because last week I told you that, God love her. She's the best woman in the world, but she's not a great cook. And
How'd that go?
in fact, in our house, we pray after the meal. So I told her, I said that on the air.
Yeah, what'd she think of that?
She thought, couldn't I use my mom
Yeah, really.
as the story?
That's legit.
Didn't have to
Because
be
my mom hasn't been here for 35 years, so, so I went,
So it wouldn't sting as badly.
it wouldn't sting it, but hell will be just as hot.
Absolutely.
It's very hot, I understand,
what I hear.
and I'm scared because I'm very light complected. I burn real easy.
Get your sunblock, sir. Get your sunblock.
Gosh, I'm going. Okay,
Talk to us about Donald Trump because it never goes away. By the way, we're doing this now live. We're live streaming, but a lot of people hear this, delayed. So happen to be doing this on the night of what's called Super Tuesday, where 500 plus delegates are going to be selected on the Republican side, 800 plus on the Democrat side.
yeah, it's the SEC Super Tuesday. So tonight it's Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, Virginia, Tennessee. There are 11 states. I'm not going to get them all. Vermont, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Georgia. Right, Georgia, yeah. So it comes right after, it's on a Tuesday, obviously, but it comes 2 days after Trump appeared on CNN, one of the Sunday morning shows, And he was asked a question because the white supremacists are supporting him. And they've come out. Various white supremacist organizations have said, we're for Trump. And so the anchor of the CNN early morning show, Jake Tapper, he asked Trump, because David Duke, who was the old head of the Ku Klux Klan, do you accept his endorsement? And do you accept the endorsement of the KKK? And Trump, he says, well, I don't know much about the organization. I'm paraphrasing, but not by a lot. And I don't know David Duke. I'm not sure I ever met him, so I don't want to comment on an organization I don't know that, I don't know anything about. Well, later on, when there was an uproar at this, because how can you be a grown-up in today's world and not know what the KKK is? So, it's not believable. Number two, he then the next day tweeted that there was something wrong with his earpiece, and so he didn't hear it. But he kept talking about David Duke, that he didn't know him, so obviously he heard that the question was David Duke. You could easily say, even if it wasn't very clear, David Duke, no, nothing to do with the Klan. I'm opposed to the Klan. They're horrible, etc. Several thoughts about this. And by the way, I'm willing to say that on the first hand, that Trump may have been tired. In other words, the candidates, in all fairness to political candidates of any stripe, by this time in the campaign, when you are nonstop every single day, constantly giving speeches, answering questions, going whatever, it's a Sunday morning, they just finished the Saturday primary, whatever. It's a Sunday morning, you're tired, and you're not quick on your feet. Particularly if you stumble, you're not quick on your feet on how you correct it. And it's not in Trump's DNA to apologize. So he's got to make up a story, it was my earpiece or whatever. And now all the Republicans are jumping in, the leaders of the party, the other candidates. Oh, the KKK is horrible. I stand opposed to it. I would never, everything. Like, wow, what courage. Mm-hmm. The problem is not the KKK. They're clowns. The problem of racism and discrimination and prejudice in our country is the polite prejudice that exists in our country. It's not the blatant, there's the Klansman, everyone can be against that. It's how much we tolerate and are insensitive to race relations in our country that breeds, that is almost enables. We're enablers to the crazies then that come out with the extreme comments. See, Donald Trump is saying things publicly that a lot of the people say privately at their own little parties, at their own, whether it's a country club or when they're out with the guys at the bowling alley and everyone's got a racial joke. Which, by the way, is a great lesson for your kids. No one puts soap in their mouth anymore, but the reason we can't permit, if you are in a group of people and you're all having a good time and people are drinking and someone comes out with some kind of racial joke, even if they're your best friends, you got to say, whoa, I'm just not comfortable with that. And you know what? They'll be stunned for a second and then they'll kind of respect you. And the reason we can't have racial humor and the reason we can't have this polite, all these race jokes and send them on the internet, hey, did you see this one? Did you see all this kind of thing? Is because over time, if a particular group, whether it's race, religion, or whatever, if a particular group gets to be characterized by the humor, you subconsciously will believe that they're second class, a little bit less than you are. And so in tough times, history has shown, when all of a sudden people start getting worried and you have to find a scapegoat who's causing the problems, and then they get treated badly, it's not so difficult for us to deal with that or to tolerate it because we subconsciously believe, well, They should be happy with what they got. It's not such a bad thing. Let me give you an exact example of what I'm talking about. However many years ago, when Bush was president, we had Katrina. And we had the 10,000 people in the Superdome. And 99% of them were black. And it took days before we got them out. And no one was going around in the government, from the president on down, saying, I hate black people. No, it wasn't that. It was that at some level, it wasn't as big a crisis as if the 10,000 people who were in that Superdome were 16-year-old white cheerleaders. We all know very well that if there had been 10,000 16-year-old white cheerleaders stuck in the Superdome, there is no way on God's earth that those kids would have been in there for more than a day. Every helicopter in America, every soldier in America, we would have used every boat, every tank, every helicopter, we would have lifted those people out. Because at some level, I remember even Barbara Bush saying when she went into the dome, well, it's, some of these people, the conditions in here are better than what they normally live in. Remember that quote? She said something along those lines. And Barbara Bush is no way an evil person at all. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Bushes, but they're not mean people, okay? They're not. But it's because it just becomes accepted in our culture that if things are tough, these people, they're used to tough conditions. We'll get them out. And that is the race problem in America, not the Ku Klux Klan. And therefore, I believe, and what I would say to the Republican Party, unintentional as it may have been, you created the political Donald Trump. It's not a few people that are choosing Donald Trump. He's getting 40-something% of the vote. The Republican voters are choosing a Donald Trump. And his racial comments, whether it's the immigration wall and the Mexicans are coming over to rape us, or we're not going to let Muslims in America, or, African Americans, or throw that guy out of the rally, or I could walk down the street and shoot someone and people would still vote for me. This whole concept of anger and disrespect of minorities are the exact positions that virtually, with the exception maybe of Kasich and Jeb Bush, who's no longer in it, every one of them has the same policies. Now they're arguing who's going to have the higher wall. They've all said, no path to citizenship. No, we're going to, they're all becoming more right-wing, more right-wing, more right-wing. So it's just Donald Trump is just the cheerleader for it. But they built Donald Trump because they've been having these policies for years. You know that the policy of the Republican Party, you know what it is on immigration. And you know what it is on minimum wage. And you know what it is on food stamps, on social programs, on all the things, on health insurance. Have you heard any of the candidates say exactly what they're going to replace Obamacare with or the Affordable Health Care Act with? No. So they have created this environment where it's perfectly okay not to give a crap about minorities or poor people or disadvantaged people. It's okay. So when someone gets defensive and says, well, wait a second, I don't hate black people. I don't hate some of my best friends. I work with some. Well, I believe that. I believe that most Americans know we don't go around hating black people. But as a culture, as a society, we have just assumed that they're of a little less worth. And which is the party that is trying to suppress the black vote? Really? If you really loved democracy and you wanted everyone to have a say, and this is how you could find people that would help improve lives, etc., wouldn't you want everybody to come to the polls and vote? How can we make it easier for you to vote? Just think of their policies. So don't get all crazy about, oh, he said this about the Klan. Like that divides good guys from bad guys. It's the vast middle that just permitted this environment to come to fruition.
Good. Hey, Jerry, shifting gears here, I'm going to hold up a record.
This
And
is
remember,
great.
we're audio only, so I'm going to describe this to our listeners. But this is what, Megan, we called back in the day a 45 record. So it's got a big hole in the middle, and it's smaller than
And
the
that
old
was
33.
new, because I grew up with the 78s, where the hole was very small.
In the 33s.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is on the label Mahogany Hall of Music is the label.
Yes.
And it's, one side,
Can people hear it?
they're going to. Not going to hear it tonight, but we're working on that. David Pruce of Ambient Studios is going to digitize this, as we say.
What if
what-
I paid you a lot of money so it would never be heard?
What is on it? What?
Well, now you got an idea there.
On it is...
$20,000 and you can buy this from me.
Okay, that may be the last remaining copy.
You know, I have no idea where I got this, but I had this at home in
what-
my
what is
office.
it?
And on the A side, well, I don't know what. Let's say
The
this
A
is
side
the
is
B-side.
Bloodshot Eyes.
Yeah, B side is Darlin' Corey,
Yeah, but that was a song that was, I mean...
a traditional.
yes.
song.
Darling Corey is a traditional song.
It's a moonshine song, actually.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay,
And,
you know more about it than I do. I just sang along.
okay, now the singers are. It says Linda and Jerry. And when I played this here at the Folk School Coffee Parlor yesterday on their record player, which will play a 45. That's freaking you on this. Oh, well, on the Bloodshot.
I'm the
Bloodshot
Jerry. I'm
Eye
not the
side.
Linda.
No, you're not the Linda. You're the
Thank you for
Jerry.
clarification.
Okay,
So-
I used to be a Linda, but
So
it's another
that's
show.
another TV show.
Yeah, it's another show.
So the thing is, the Johnson Fork Boys, one of the Johnson Fork Boys is sitting right here, Joe Stone. Let's welcome, by the way, Joe Stone.
That is so cool. I mean, honestly, this is a surprise to me. I really didn't know about this. So tell me, I think I'm going to say it was 1967. The summer of 67, I was clerking. I came to Cincinnati for the very first time, clerking with a law firm here that ultimately brought me to Cincinnati. And at night, good look, in 1967, I was 23 years old. Okay. So,
So was I.
yeah. You don't look a day over, well, whatever. So, and at night, being a young guy, being a single guy, we'd go in Cincinnati. Mount Adams was a place where young people congregated at night.
Still is.
Still is, with bars and restaurant. And there was this one bar called Mahogany Hall. So I figured they didn't have Tinder yet. So I figured to meet girls, we call them girls back then, they were obviously young women, would be, you know, to sing at a local bar. So I walked into Mahogany Hall, met this girl, her friend, by the way, became my girlfriend, but met this Linda Paffman was her name. So, and then
We're in search of Linda Paffman. We
Yes.
are now in search.
Oh, well, that is
because
great.
we like to bring, not tonight's can't
Oh,
happen.
that would be
We'd like to bring
great.
her in here to sing Bloodshot Eyes with you. But anyway, keep
And
telling your story.
this Bloodshot Eyes is actually, I got the words on it. Someone handed me the words to it, and I put a country tune to it. The reality is that back in 1948, Bloodshot Eyes was recorded by the Talbot brothers as a calypso song. I didn't know that until later. You know, I only know 3 or 4 chords on the guitar, so I made a country tune. Don't you roll those bloodshot eyes at me?
Wow.
We recorded, what was it, the Shadow Shea Studios?
No, at King Studios.
Oh, King Studios.
Very
King
famous.
Studios,
Yeah.
And you
Richard.
were the backup band, and I thought I would never, ever see the Johnson Fork Boys, and you are very brave to admit that you were on this record.
Oh, no, this actually is
We
pretty
had
good.
been playing about 2 years. I joined the Balladeers.
So that's the Queen City
Queen City
Balladeers.
Balladeers. It was
Because
a
this is a
folk
national
group.
show. That's a Cincinnati-based roots music organization that started, Joe, 1966 or so?
Yeah.
And
Mid-60s.
still lives today in the Cincinnati
It
area.
did. Well, I went there to play music and meet people and find a guitar player and such, and found some fellas, and we started a bluegrass band. And I live in Indiana. We lived on a farm, and a thing called this little road called Johnson Fork went through it, and I thought, Johnson Fork Boys,
There it is.
every bluegrass band, it was
I
something
never
something
knew that.
boys. Okay, so we became the Johnson Fork Boys. Queen City Balladeers in July, for 4 weeks in July, over July, they would have concerts in the park.
That's
so the
Eden
Johnson
Park in
Fork
Cincinnati,
Boys played
outside.
there. After we had played, this fellow by the name of Jerry Springer come up and he said, "Could I
Handsome
ask
young
you-
man. Yes.
Could I? Yes. Could I ask you a question?" I said, "Well, would you play for this friend of mine? She belongs to back when Cincinnati was allowed to have a Playboy Club.
Yes.
She was worked at the Playboy Club, and could you guys back her and me doing a song?" And I said, "What's it pay?" And he said, "Oh, I think nothing." And
Yeah.
so we
No,
went to
he's very
King
good.
Studios and
Yeah, that was
and we did it. And I had a few records, but over the years they got away from me, and I never thought that. I can't imagine
Well, wait a
what we
second.
sounded
Jerry's offered me $20,000 for this. $21,000 is yours.
but I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah.
Smart man.
Yeah, I'm dying to hear what it sounds
That's
like.
I can't imagine.
Well, people
really
will
cool.
hear, not tonight, maybe next podcast or next week when we record new podcasts, it'll be part of that. So let me introduce more formally Joe Stone. By the way, is well known in the bluegrass area, in the tri-state area of Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, for a bluegrass festival that you ran a few years ago called
Stone Valley Bluegrass Festival.
Stone Valley. And you brought in some pretty big names in bluegrass. Rattle off a few of the people that came in to play there.
J.D. Crowe, Seldom Seen, Ralph Stanley, Bill Monroe.
Those are big
you
people.
know, and I can go on and on. But
Yeah.
Jerry, and I did some other things. Jerry MC, I don't know if he remembers this, on December the 2nd, when was it?
Yeah, it was raining.
1979. 1979.
Oh,
December
that
2nd,
was- no.
He MC'd at the Playhouse, the Katie Lauer and the Walker Street Band Bluegrass Show. Do you remember?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, and this makes it more serious. I'm not sure it was December 2nd, because December 3rd, 1979 was the Riverfront
Who concert,
the Who
the
concert
tragedy.
where the 11 people died.
Yeah.
I can't
Trampled.
imagine it was the day before that.
It was a Sunday. I got the flyer. With
Oh,
me.
so it was the day before. Mm-hmm. Wow.
was.
Okay, I had forgotten that.
So
Good.
you played and he MC'd at that show?
No.
Or, pardon me, that
I
was
promoted
Katie
it
Lauer.
and produced it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a thing for local bands.
Yeah.
Wayne Kleiber's here tonight from Walker Street.
Yeah, I remember doing those things. Yeah, so I just didn't realize it was the day before the Who. Yeah.
Well, we've asked Joe Stone to come in and do a song for us. He's going to do a traditional song, great old song called Cripple Creek.
Cripple Creek.
And Maria Corelli, our great friend, a barista and a performer extraordinaire from the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, is going to do probably a break on this, and we're happy to hear that. And Joe, whenever you're ready, Cripple Creek.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
Wow.
The old traditional Cripple Creek. That was excellent. This has been a real treat. And Maria, it's always cool to have you jump in because she's becoming more and more a picker, a songwriter by trade, but becoming also a picker as well. Joe and Maria, would you guys take us out on Irene Goodnight?
You start singing and I'll just jump right in, okay?
Here we go. Maria Corelli.
You've been listening to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, recorded live at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky. Thanks to Patrick Kennedy for writing our opening song, and to you for listening. Check out our website at jerryspringer.com.
Stop your rambling, stop your gambling, stop staying out late every night. Go home to your wife and family and sit by the fireside light. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
Sometimes I live in the country, and sometimes I live in town. Sometimes I take a great notion to jump in the river and drown.
Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
Y'all come back now.